Hello and welcome to this data engineering episode on Microsoft Azure, the very first for the year 2025. In this practical video, I'm going to show you how we can write flattened complex nested JSON data from Azure Data Lake to Azure SQL Database using Azure Data Factory Data Flows resource. So let's get started. First, let's understand the objects and the nested objects in our sample JSON document. I'm going to come to this text file, and then we have the arrays with this square bracket at the top here and one at the bottom. So within that, we have what's called the objects. So we have these records, details, specialty, and qualification objects, and then we have the key values in each of the objects. So we have the ID, consider this as a name of the column in a tabular format, and then we have the value, we have the name object, the key, and then we have the Evelyn Jackson as the value. Now let's understand the nested objects within this outermost details, specialty, qualification objects. Now when you look at this part under the details, we have this address, and then we have a curly bracket that contains the city key, and then we have the Houston value, and then we have the zip key, and then we have this number as the value. So this is what's called a nested object within objects in JSON documents. Now when you look at the qualification, we have this institution details as a nested object. So we have the name of university, university location, year founded, and so on and so forth. So we have the objects and nested objects. Now, the record for Evelyn Jackson is up to this point. So you can see this curly bracket down with this comma. So when I select this up, this is a similar thing in a tabular format that we call a row. So this is just a single record, okay? And then the next record starts from this point, this curly bracket. So this starting from James O'Connell, and this end somewhere around here, this point. And then the third record or the third row in the tabular format is this Sophia Rodriguez, and so on and so forth. So let's see how we can transform all of these in our Azure Data Factory and write it as a tabular data to Azure SQL Database for downstream analysis. So to get started, I'm going to come here. So I have the portal.azure.com. So first, I want to get data loaded into my container of the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2 storage account. So I'm going to click on this Cornerstone Analytics, and then under the data storage, I want to click on the containers. And then I've got this demo JSON file container with data directory created. So click on that. So within this data directory, which you can see here, click on this upload functionality. And then I'm going to browse for files. So this is the data in JSON records.txt. So double click on upload. And then I can click on this, and I can click on this edit to preview. So we have the same record, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, because our goal is to write, having transformed, having flattened, we're going to write as a table into the Azure SQL database. So because of that, I'm going to come to this tab, and in this tab, I've got this my Cornerstone Analytics server. You can see we have the SQL database. So I want to go back and I want to open the Cornerstone SQL database itself. So I'm going to click on this query editor, and I want to use the entry ID to log in into the query editor itself. So this is much faster. So I'm going to expand this, and then we have all of this table that I loaded initially when I set up this for the first time. So I'm going to come here and paste this create table statement. So basically, we want to call the table employee details, and then we have the ID, name, age, gender, marital status, down to year founded. Now, this is similar to what you have in the JSON. We have this ID, name, details, and we have the age, gender, and so on and so forth, down to the last column or the last value, which is the year founded. Now, I'm going to come back here and just select all of this query and run the code. So this is fine. Now, let's just perform a simple select star from employee details table, and let's query whether we have any data or not. So select everything and click on the run. So when I click on this result tab, we have no result to visualize. That's fine. Now let's go to the Azure Data Factory to get the data, and then we're going to transform the data using the data flows, and then we're going to write to the destination. So I'm going to come to this tab, and then we have this Cornerstone Analytics ADF. So as my usual practice, I love to create my linked services first because it actually makes my life much easier, and then I love to create my data set, and then the data flow, and then the pipeline. So click on this manage, and then click on this plus to create my first linked service. I want to set for lake, that is Azure Data Lake. So I can see that here. and click on that, and I want to click on continue. So I'm going to maintain this name as the name of the linked service. So I'm going to choose my Azure Visual Studio Enterprise subscription, and then I want to choose the name of that storage account where the data is housed. Click on test connection, and it's going to work fine. Click on create. So this is created. Now we're going to create another linked service for the Azure SQL Database. So click on continue. I'm going to maintain this name. I want to choose my subscription. And for the server name, I want to choose Cornerstone Analytics Server, and then for the name of the database. So I need the username. So to get the username, I'm going to come here and let me just duplicate this quickly. So I'm going to come back to the overview of this new duplicated tab, and then I'm going to click on this server name. This is going to take me to the SQL server part of the database. So I'm going to copy this server admin, the same thing as my username, come back here, and I can get rid of this. I'm going to paste that, and this my password is correct, I believe. So I'm going to click on test connection to the Azure SQL database, and it's going to work fine. So click on create. So we have the linked services sorted. Now we want to go to the author tab, and in the author we want to create data sets to the source and the destination. So for the data set, I can click on this ellipsis, click on the new data set, and I'm going to set for Azure Data Lake. So Azure Data Lake, and click on that. So continue, and then this is going to be JSON format. So click on continue, and I'm going to maintain this name and pick the linked service we created for the Azure Data Lake storage. And then for the file path, I'm going to click on this browse, and then I want to browse by clicking on this demo JSON file container name, and then the data directory name, and then I can see the name of the file, JSON records.txt. Click OK, and then we're going to maintain this import schema from connection / store. So click OK. Now this is sorted for the data set. I can see the connection credentials. Let me just collapse this. So we have the connection credentials. I can click on the schema. I can see we have this record object, and then we have these key values and the types, the data types, and then we have the details, we have the address, and then we have the specialty and qualification. That is fine. So I can even come to the parameter, but we're not going to use parameters in this case. So we have this sorted. Now I want to create the data set for the destination. So again, click on this ellipsis for the data set, and then click on new data set. So I'm going to set for Azure SQL Database. So click on continue, and I'm going to maintain this name, and I want to choose the linked service for the Azure SQL. Now I'm going to click on this table, and I want to set for employee details table we just created. So just leave it this as it is. Click on OK. So we have data set created for the destination. So I'm going to close these properties. Now we want to go to the data flow. So click on this ellipsis, and I want to create a new data flow. Now in the data flow, we're going to be debugging the work as we're going on. So it's really important we enable data flow debug. So basically it's going to use a little bit of a cluster in order to debug. Now this is going to actually cost you a little bit of money, but in my case, this is going to be free for me. So please make sure you toggle on this validate, that is data flow debug, and this green should be up and running. So it can give your data flow a name if you like. I'm going to close this. This doesn't matter in my case. Now let me quickly collapse this so that we can see what's going on. Cool. Now we can begin to add stains in this canvas. So click on this plus this chevron, and we want to add source. So for the source, I can provide an output stream name. I'm going to leave this as a default, and then for the source, it's going to be dataset not inline, and then for the name of dataset, now we don't need to recreate because we've done that already. So this is what we need, JSON. So click on this drop down, and I want to pick the JSON, and I can see the icon of the JSON here, which is cool. Now we're going to leave this allow schema drift as it is. Now we're going to click on data flow preview, and let's click on this refresh. Now this is going to give us a failure, and I'm going to explain the reason why we have the failure and what we need to do in order to solve the problem. So we can see at source we have this manifold records are detected in schema inference, and then we have this fail fast. It could be because of blah blah. Now the reason is because I'm going to come to this source. Now our data is a multi-line nested JSON object. So it's really important to come to this source option and then click on this JSON settings. And in the settings, now we're going to choose the array of documents as the document form because we have multi-line nested JSON object. So we're going to use the array of documents. So this is needed. And when I come back to the data preview and click on the refresh again, this is going to give us the data back with all our objects. So there we go. So we can see we have the data back. Of course, this is actually not fully in the tabular format. So we can see we have this curly bracket, which tells you this is an array. So we have the records, we have the details, specialty, and qualification. So when I come to the, for example, inspect, I can see we have the records here, we have the details, specialty, qualification, and so on and so forth. That's cool. So we can see we have the type as complex. So we have this curly bracket here. That is fine. Now I'm going to come back to the preview. So we have to perform some further transformation. Now to transform it further, I'm going to click on this plus sign, and then we need a transformation called aggregate. Now the aggregate is going to allow us to use a function called the collect function. Now the collect function is going to collect all the objects within each of the array of our JSON document. So I'm going to set for aggregate, and then click on that. Now in the aggregate setup, of course, we can change the output stream name, and this is going to be taking the incoming stream from the source, which is this first step here. Now we have two things here. We have the group bar, and then we have the aggregate. Now I'm going to click on the aggregate tab, and then we have the setup. We have the column name, and then we have the expression builder. We're going to write the collect in a moment. Now for the column name, I can use whatever I like as the prefix of the column name. So in this case, I'm going to just use data. In your case, you can use whatever you like. It doesn't matter. Okay, just put something here, and I'm going to use this later. And then for the expression builder, click on this NA, and it's going to launch the expression builder. So we can see we have the column name, we just define data, and then for the expression, we're going to use the collect function. So collect. Now for the collect function, I'm going to use the @ symbol and open the brackets. So basically, we're going to pass in each of the objects, and then we're going to use equal to the same object to collect all the data in each of the arrays. So I'm going to come back here. So let's start up with the record. So I'm going to double click this, copy this, and I want to come here. So inside this bracket, Control V to paste equals the same records. I want to put in a comma. So let's come back here, and then let's do it for the details. Control C, and I'm going to come here. Control V equals Control V, put in a comma, and then let's do the same thing for the specialty. Double click, and I'm going to come here after the comma. Control V equals Control V, and put in a comma again. Finally, we need the qualification. So double click, come back here. Ctrl V equals Ctrl V. Now this is going to automatically take out the red underline because this is actually correct. If this is not correct, this is going to actually show you the underline as incorrect. So this is how we need what we need the collect to do. So I'm going to click on save and finish. So there we go. So this is sorted. Now, when I click on this data preview and I click on this refresh, just to see what's going to happen. Now, this is going to actually collect all the objects in each of the steps, and I'm going to be able to visualize it. So this is what we're talking about. Now, this may probably not make sense, but let's see. I'm going to click on this, and then we can see we have data. Now, this is basically a record for the first person. So I can click on this to expand, and then we have the records object, and then we have the details, we have the specialty. Now, let's see the records. So click on that, and then we have the ID 16, and then we have the Evelyn, and then we have the details, and so on and so forth. Now, this is actually making sense. Now, I'm going to click on this plus sign again, and then we need the flatten formatter that's going to actually flatten the data into a tabular format. So I'm going to set for flatten and click on that under the formatters. So I'm going to maintain all these details now. The income stream is going to be from this step, the aggregate that we define here. And then for the unroll by, so we're going to unroll by the data column name we specify in our expression builder of the aggregate transformation. So click on this so we can see we have this curly or this square brackets, data square brackets. And then let me just move this up a little bit so that I can see what's going on. So for the unroll roof, this is going to be the same as it is. Now, for now, we have this data, but I'm going to click on reset. As soon as I click on reset, this is going to automatically generate this description for me. Can you see? And of course, we have each of the objects. We have the records, detail, specialty, qualification. Now, this is actually not what you're looking for, okay? Because we have to unwrap all those key values in each of the objects. Now, when you come back here, let me just go up. So you can see under the records object, we have this ID and name. So what do we do? I'm going to come back here and I'm going to quickly, or let me just collapse this so that we can see what's going on clearly. Okay, so I'm going to click on this plus sign. I just want to add two fixed mapping. So I'm going to actually do this a little bit manually. And then, so I'm going to click on this drop down and I want to set for the ID key. And then this is going to populate the name for the ID. So I want to set for the name, which is under the record. So name, click on that and then name. So I can go on and get rid of this, delete. So this is not needed again. Okay, so we've undo this ID and the name underneath the records object. Cool. Now let's go to the details. So for the details, we have how many values or keys. We have this age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, and then we have the nested part, which is the city 7 and 8. So I'm going to come back here and carefully come to these details. I want to quickly add 8 fixed mapping. So I'm going to quickly do that and come back to this video. Okay, so we have all the 8 fixed mapping. Now let's start off by grabbing the age and the gender. So I'm going to come here and for this one here, so I'm going to set for the age, and I can see the age on the details, and then we want to see the gender, so I can search, so it's actually easier to search. So gender, and then we need the marital status and number of children. So I'm going to come here marital, and I'm going to set for the next one is going to be number of children. So number of children. So we can see as we are grabbing each of the keys, we can see this populated automatically, which is absolutely fantastic. And then we want to go to the salary and education. So I'm going to set for salary here. Salary, I think this is enough. And I'm going to set for education, so we can see that there. Now let's go to the nested partner. So we need the city and the zip, which is inside this address object. So I'm going to set for the city here. So type in city, and I can see that here under the address, and then we need the zip. So zip, and there we go. So we can see the zip. So you can see now this looks a little bit quite interesting. So we can see we have the details dot number of children, details dot salary, details dot education, details dot address dot city, because this is the nested part of the details object. Cool. Now let's go to the specialty. For the specialty, we just need 4 fixed mapping. So and before I go on, it's really important to come here, get rid of this so that this doesn't cause problem later on when we're previewing. So delete this part. Can you see? This is what I'm deleting. Delete. And then for the specialty, I'm going to come here, click on this plus sign. I just need 4 fixed settings. Fixed mapping rather. So click on that. One more. Okay, so for the first one, we need the role and the years of experience. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to set for the role. So can you see under specialty, and I'm going to set for years of experience. Can you see that's sorted? And then we need the location and email. So I'm going to come here and set for location. So I can see location here under specialty, and then the email. So that's it. And then we want to move to the final part, which is the qualification. So underneath the objects, we have the highest qualification, grade, and the year graduated. And then the nested part is the name of university, university location, and year. So basically, we need 6 fixed mapping. So I'm going to come here. Oh, yeah, by the way, let me quickly get rid of this so that I don't forget. Sometimes I, do forget this. So get rid of this. Okay, so I'm going to quickly add for the qualification 6 fixed mapping. So this is the fourth one. So I can add that's the second, third, third. Okay, let me just add number 4th, and the number 5th, and the number 6th. Okay, so we can see we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now let's quickly grab the highest qualification. So I'm going to set for highest qualification, and then the next one is grade, I believe. So grade, and the next one should be year graduated. So year graduated. So I'm going to set for the year graduated under the qualifications. So I can double click on this. Okay, and then we want to go to the nested part, the name of university. So click on this. So name. So I want to see the name of university here. So I want to set for university location. So location, and finally we have the year founded. So I want to click on this. So year founded. Now we've done that. So again, don't forget to get rid of this part. So make sure this is selected. The main object itself, delete. Okay, so you can see this looks a little bit too long, but that's how we can transform this in order to get things right. So let's go ahead and click on the data preview and click on the refresh. So let's see what we're gonna have. Okay, so this is a tabular format data. So we've transformed it from the JSON nested array document to a tabular format. So we can see we have the ID, the name, age, gender, marital status, number of children, salary, and down to the year founded. That is absolutely fantastic. And then we have the appropriate data types. Majorly we have string data types, but some do have the int data types. Now let me quickly move this up to this point. Now, when when you check this IS qualification here, let me just move this a little bit. So we have this IS qualification in form of the fourth letter as a proper case, capitalize the fourth letter. Now, when I come back to the table we created, somehow we have this H and Q in lowercase. So I'm going to quickly come back here and just transform that so that we don't have violation when we run the data pipeline. So I'm going to quickly come to this IS education. So I'm going to turn this to small letter H and then small letter Q. So when I go to the data preview, again, click on the refresh. And when I go to that IS qualification, we're going to have the lowercase all through. And this is not going to violate our data pipeline when we are going on later on. So when I come back here, I can see IS qualification. So this is looking fine. So we are done with the transformation. Now we can just choose the sync, click on this, and I'm going to set for the sync, that is the destination. And let's move this up a little bit. And then for the sync settings, I'm going to maintain this name. And then for the data set, now we're going to use the Azure SQL table we created. And then this is looking fine. So I don't even need to do anything much, but you can always go to the inspect and so on and so forth to see what is going on. So we are done with the data flow. So basically we have all this for transformation. We have the source, aggregate, flatten, and the sync. Cool. Now I'm going to expand this. Oops, not this. I need the author. Okay. Now let me close this and I'm going to close this. Okay. We want to go to the pipeline resources, right click, and then create a new pipeline. So I want to quickly just drag data flow into this canvas and I can just rename if I choose to do, but I'm not going to rename anything. So let me close this for now. Now, before we run, or let me click on validate first for any potential errors. You can see no errors whatsoever. Now, let me quickly come back here and run this again to check if we have any data by any magic or not. So when I click on that, go to the result tab, I can close this. Okay, you can see no results. Now let's go ahead and debug. So click on debug, and this is going to provision the pipeline to execute. And we're going to see all the data under the output. We have the pipeline run ID. We have the activity name of data flow, the status as in progress, activity type, data flow, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to wait for some couple of minutes and let's see what is going to give us a successful integration to Azure SQL Database or not. Okay, this succeeded, which is absolutely cool. Now, let's come back here and query this table again. So when I run the code, amazing, it worked absolutely fantastic. So we can see each of the rows. So we have the ID 16 for Elvin Jackson. When I come here, I can see we have the 16 ID 16 for Elvin Jackson, and then we have all of these details, and that's working fine. So the next person is James O'Connell, Sophia Rodriguez, and when you come back here and you scroll a little bit, we're gonna see this is the record for James O'Connell, and then when you go down, you're gonna see Sophia Rodriguez, and then when you go down, you're gonna see Ahmed Khan. So when you come here, so we're gonna see after Rodriguez, we have the Ahmed Khan, Liwei, and so on and so forth. So this is how we can use the Azure Data Factory to flatten complex JSON objects and write successfully as a tabular form to Azure SQL Database for downstream analysis. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, like, comment, share, and follow me for more videos because there's a lot to come in this 2025. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.